Hello everyone, The Right Fiction here, coming to you from my new YouTube channel, which I hope will mark the start of a new series of videos from me for however long this will last. To kick things off, I thought I'd start this new platform out small by focusing on a topic from one of my favorite shows of all time, Samurai Jack. Having followed the story of Jack since 2001 on Cartoon Network, then on DVD in 2012, and finally on streaming across multiple sites, legitimate or otherwise, I've had plenty of chances to follow the samurai hero on his many whimsical, wacky, and epic adventures. And on a seemingly endless quest to defeat the Dark Lord Aku and return to the past, not only has Jack been forced to overcome various problems, but he's also encountered a slew of unique adversaries, each wanting to get a piece of him for one reason or another, mostly at Aku's will. Many of these opponents he's been able to defeat quite handily in battle, but despite being this amazing ass-kicking samurai, there's also been a number of foes that have given him quite a bit of trouble, to the point of sometimes being more than a match for our hero. So today, as my first video on this channel, we're going to have a look at Samurai Jack's toughest opponents. For this list, we're going to analyze 10 enemies I believe have given Samurai Jack the most trouble across the 5 seasons and rank them based on how well they did against the young prince with the magical katana and how strong their individual abilities are. I'll also make mention of how well they would stack up in relation to each other, hence explaining why I'm ordering them the way I am. Also, heavy spoiler alert, let's begin. Kicking off the number 10 spot, we have the Ninja. Easily one of the most fondly remembered of Samurai Jack's enemies, this assassin dressed all in black gave our hero a pretty solid run for his money, especially when you consider how late he showed up in the series and how strong Jack had become by that point. Personally tested by Aku himself, this guy not only had the combat chops to go toe-to-toe with Jack and even press him a couple of times with his unorthodox combination of swordplay, acrobatics, and martial arts, but this slippery could also blend perfectly into the shadows and render himself nearly undetectable, to the point Jack couldn't even see or hear the guy even when he knew he was fighting it. This is already quite impressive feat-wise, because Jack had long since mastered the sense training he did when confronting the 3 blind archers in Season 1. This ninja by himself pushed Jack so much, it forced Jack to adopt the ninja's combat style and camouflage himself using the light, which led to one of the coolest fights I'd ever seen. It was so good. This of course gave Jack the leg up he needed to level the playing field and eventually kill the ninja. Now, even though our hero won this fight by way of his skill and training, it was still ridiculously close, especially when you consider Jack was pressed for time due to the fading light, and he had to bait the ninja into attacking him on the topmost platform of the tower to get the kill shot. Had the light completely disappeared, Jack would have been absolutely screwed, but his boldness and strategy eventually paid off, and he was able to take advantage of the ninja's frustration to nail him. Had the ninja waited a couple more minutes, history would likely be very different now. It was also interesting to note that the ninja didn't use any other tactics or weapons beyond the ninja katana and stealth to fight, like shuriken, caltrops, kunai, poison, bombs, or any other weapons famously used in a shinobi's toolkit, though granted he did lure our boy Jack in with rope and a hostage. Had Jack not glimpsed the ninja in the reflection in the village boy's eye, he also would have been done for. But even when he became fully aware of what he was up against, the ninja went the distance with him. Boy, it sure was lucky Jack only had to fight one of these guys and not like 7 of them at the same time, am I right? Speaking of ninjas, at the number 9 spot we have Ashi and her sisters, also known as the Daughters of Aku. Fun fact, these girls are all completely naked. No joke, their bodies are literally just caked with ash thanks to their mother baptizing them in literal hot coals. So, based outfit designs, I guess? And at the same time, ow! Anyway, back on topic, even though these 7 waifus showed up at the tail end of Jack's adventures in the future, when Jack should have been way stronger than when we last saw him at the end of Season 4, and it was stated quite frantically by Mad Jack that Jack had, quote, never faced anything so powerful, unquote. After analyzing the rest of the series, I honestly can't rank these girls any higher than here, and I'll tell you why. Though they can hit astonishingly hard for their size, are blessed with Aku's genes as revealed in flashbacks of the mother's cult, and even after receiving years of torturous training, neither their accumulated strength nor their genetic advantages gave any of these girls any more strength or power beyond Jack's own capabilities. In fact, the only reason they did so well against Jack in their first encounter with the samurai was because they ambushed him, destroyed his and outnumbered him when he had no idea who was attacking him, and Jack didn't have his sword with him. So on top of their primary target being nerfed, they also got the drop on our boy and ganked him 7-1. After an admittedly tense chase through the forest and then the temple, Jack was able to separate one of the girls from the rest of the pack and killed her one-on-one, granted at the cost of getting stabbed, but as revealed by Mad Jack, this was nothing new to him. After taking a brief time out to recover and re-strategize, Jack then had a rematch with the remaining 6 girls and he was able to mop the floor with them. I especially appreciated the fact he was able to turn the tables and used his Ninja of Light technique to a limited degree against them, and neither of them could do anything against that, and we were given one of the other best choreographed and most atmospheric fights in the series. Still, even though Jack defeated them in the end, the Daughters of Aku still put up a hell of a fight against our hero, and were even able to temporarily put a weakened Jack out of commission, to the point of being one of the handful of enemies on this list to nearly kill him. Thanks to their combined training in the cult, they were able to coordinate extremely well against Jack with very little communication. Like the Ultrabots, each of these girls specialized in using a singular weapon, though like Ashi, it is implied they all have very good hand-to-hand combat skills as individuals. Thanks to their cultish mentality and decades of brainwashing under Mother, they are also incredibly vicious and callous, and can maintain their composure in combat even when their siblings are falling all around them. Now, though they are incredibly powerful, especially when they fight as a team, I can't rank them any higher than number 9 for a few reasons. The new season, despite its retcons, hasn't exactly shown us that Jack has gotten any stronger since we last saw him at the end of Season 4. In fact, he may have gotten weaker between the two seasons, but the fact that he also doesn't have his primary weapon for half the season also means the daughters of Aku were fighting a handicapped Jack for most of their hunt for him. And though their physical strength may be capable of tearing ruins and adds apart, the girls are more like glass cannons. They can hit real hard, but the moment they are hit back by anything that is just as or even stronger than them, especially when using piercing weapons, they fold like paper. We've also seen other opponents in Jack's past shred through stone and metal when fighting him, so environmental destruction as part of their capabilities is par for the course for some of these guys. Their individual strengths in their initial forms are comparable to the ninja, except there is 7 of them as opposed to 1, but the ninja's perfect stealth capabilities give him a tactical leg up over an individual sister, but I doubt he could beat all of them at once due to their diversity in arsenal and teamwork. Even when taking into account Ashi's second phase pseudo-Aku form she assumes later in the show, the only reason she was able to TKO Jack in their third fight was because Jack had, by that time, developed a rather close relationship with her on their adventures and didn't want to hurt her. Had that not factored into that end-of-season battle, he likely would have destroyed her. Nevertheless, the daughters of Aku are still one of Jack's toughest enemies. Up next in the number 8 spot, we have The Guardian. Now, a lot of fans of the series will probably be really mad at me and shout stuff like, "What? Why are you putting this guy at number 8? Why isn't this badass much higher? Yada, yada, yada." But now, look. Okay, I get it, guys. The Guardian is really cool. I love the dude a lot, and I was just as pissed off as the rest of you when he got murked off screen by Aku, and we never got that final epic showdown between him and Jack that was teased at the end of his episode. But trust me when I say this list was really hard to sort out, and the other people that are a lot higher on this list are pretty busted power scaling wise. And, well, based on showings, I can make a lot more arguments over the other guys being placed higher on this list than this guy, so bear with me and let me run through his credentials. So the Guardian is an ancient mythical being of unknown race and origin that has been standing guard over the single monolith of space-time energy for countless eons, and has defeated thousands of foes across his life, from tiny tin soldiers to massive giants, so this dude is honestly nothing to sneeze at in terms of combat accolades. Whether he's been here since Jack's time is unknown, but ever since the Guardian has been placed here, he hasn't been beaten, and there's only been one person that's been supposedly prophesized to defeat him in combat. It's never specified who, but most people theorized it was Jack until the Season 5 retcons. The guy has a range of weapons from which he can draw from, including a katana, twin scythes, and even a platinum version of Sam Fisher's SC-20K Moors and a Glock. Considering he can whip these out of thin air, it's implied by his fight with Jack that he can pull out any weapon he needs in order to defeat whatever foe he's faced with, which explains the graveyard of dead warriors and giants, though this is only speculative and not confirmed. Now, while he is equal to Jack in martial arts skill and weapon arts, it's his monstrous strength that really gives him the edge here. Once both of them are done with the weapon foreplay, the guy goes absolutely ham and starts steamrolling Jack in hand-to-hand combat, and even eats one of the Spartan shields he's smacked with. It's here I'd like to point out that it's really impressive, given what we already know about the Guardian, that Jack managed to push him this far. Seriously, he managed to best the guy in weapon arts and outwitted him by kicking his own rockets back at him, and after blowing up his suit and guns, the guy completely loses his and goes full Hulk mode and not only knocks Jack out but almost kills him. It's only thanks to the portal speaking up that he was saved. Had Jack been able to hit him with a bit more intensity in that fight, he might have succeeded in beating the Guardian and gotten home. It's just that Jack wasn't quite at the level of combat experience and physical strength needed to get the job done, which of course is revealed to us by the nearby time portal exactly when in the foreseeable future our hero would be strong enough and worthy enough to face the Guardian in a rematch. All of this is pretty much the reason why I placed this guy at number 8. While he has an impressive skill set, weapon set, and kill streak against other foes, it's never shown to us how much more powerful these giants or other opponents were compared to enemies Jack has already faced on his journey through the future. And Jack himself has overcome hundreds of foes of all sizes, including giants, in the time we've seen him on his adventures. So the Guardian being able to replicate these feats across eons, while conceptually impressive, doesn't give us the full scope or context of his capabilities, especially since Jack could clack swords with him on equal footing. It's never stated that the weapons he pulls out are special either, like we don't don't know whether or not the katana he drew was also enchanted, or maybe the guns he was using had infinite ammo or something. All we know is Jack was able to match him blow for blow when using the weapons they fought with. And considering the guy has been standing here all this time, we can also put an immortality hashtag over him. But while that does make him beefier than a lot of other foes, it doesn't exactly translate to combat prowess, though that graveyard of bodies was quite intimidating. Don't get this critique twisted. This guy is strong, very strong, and definitely worthy of guardianship at this time passage. It's just that the other guys on this list has been shown to be far more impressive than him, and could probably even beat the Guardian himself. Moving into number 7 is Lazarus 92. Made up of a colony of blue leech-like creatures, this incredibly dangerous alien life form was incarcerated on board a giant space prison. You know, instead of burning the demonic hellspawn the moment they somehow arrested him when they had the chance, you know, the other things he could have done. When the facility was struck by an asteroid, the vessel was sent hurtling off course to eventually crash land on Earth in the middle of the desert. When Jack and Ashi boarded the ship seeking shelter from the storm, they discovered rather grimly through exploration of the derelict craft that Lazarus had managed to break out of its holding cell and slaughter and devour not just the guards but the other inmates as well. I can't imagine how horrifying an experience that must have been, good lord. Now, this thing isn't a normal alien, it's actually a collection of countless, highly aggressive, rapidly swarming organisms that operate as a single hive mind. Not only can they pull together to operate as a single entity, but the little blights that make up the main body can also operate independently from the colony as scouts, and even split off from the main mass to form other bodies to attack multiple targets at once. If that weren't bad enough, not only can Lazarus launch leeches of itself at prey from long range like projectiles, but a single bite from one of these things is extremely venomous. It's apparently a very fast spreading toxin, since Jack had to quickly remove it from Ashi the moment she got bit in order to stop it from affecting her. To make matters worse, even when you chop up or destroy whole swaths of leeches to try and cut Lazarus down, the creatures can just regenerate, but it's not normal regeneration like how Akuri forms. Since they're a massive colony of alien insects, they can reproduce amongst each other at such an alarming rate. They can not only replenish fallen numbers, but they can also increase the size of Lazarus to the point that the creatures simply wash over whatever prey they're chasing after to overwhelm them. Not only can these bugs kill very quickly, but they can also eat pretty much every last scrap of their target, since neither of our heroes were able to find a single trace of any of the prison's former inhabitants. It sure was lucky this thing crashed in the middle of a desert, not, a city, otherwise Earth would have been in a lot of trouble. During their long battle with the creature, neither Jack nor Ashi working together could wear this thing down with conventional weapons, tools, or even Jack's magic sword. The only way they were able to finally kill this thing was to wipe out the entire colony at once using a specialized electric device stored in the prison ship armory called X-29. According to the computer, this was the only sure way of killing Lazarus for good if it ever got out of its cell. Whether or not there were other effective ways to deal with it, like, luring the colony into fire or drowning them, is unknown, but I highly doubt Jack or Ashi could have found another sure way to beat Lazarus had they been stuck wandering the halls of the ship trying to escape it. In fact, considering it was able to single-handedly wipe out the entire population of the prison, including the guards, in such a short span of time, even Ashi and her sisters, the Guardian, and any other organic person on this list going up against Lazarus would have lost due to the terrifying nature of its abilities. Coming in at number 6, we have Demongo, the Soul Collector, also known as the Dealer of Destruction and the Merchant of Doom. Man, I love this guy. Not only is his visual design so flippin' cool, but his high-pitched voice is also very iconic. My utmost praise goes out to the actor that brought this guy to life, because holy shit, that voice would have been a really tough pitch to maintain, especially that maniacal laugh. Anyway, Demongo was stated by Aku to be one of his most powerful minions, and for good reason. This infuriating little shit has the incredibly horrifying ability to absorb the souls of any person who falls in battle against him. And that's no joke, this guy has a bloody menagerie of poor sods in his collection, which he carries around like trophies on his torso, upwards of over 1,000 by his count. I'd also like to point out, on top of beasts, aliens, and humans, he can also apparently absorb the souls of AI-powered robots, so sucks to any Grok and ChatGTP android that ends up fighting against this guy. As a side note, I also find it incredibly funny that to get past the censorship rules for a kids show, they use the words essence as opposed to souls so as not to frighten children, but the connotation behind Demongo's ability is very clear here. Not only can he summon as many of these warriors in his collection to battle for him at the same time, but he can also respawn them at will, so even if they die, he can just resummon them back to full health, which is nuts. This ability also has no cost or drain on his stamina either, so good luck trying to outlast him if you're up against him in a battle of attrition. To make matters worse, since he is a necromancer slash caster type enemy, Demongo doesn't fight up close. Instead, he relies primarily on the souls he summons to do all the fighting for him. So if you try closing the distance on him to lay the smackdown, all he does is teleport or fly out of reach of you, so there's really no point trying to harm his main body if you square up with him. Understandably, this makes him a very dangerous and difficult opponent to fight, even for the combatants higher on this list. The only way Jack was able to beat this guy in the first place was that he was able to figure out, rather obviously, that every time he slew one of the warriors he was fighting, their soul would physically get absorbed back into Demongo's body through the skulls on his torso. In order to free the souls and defeat the imp once and for all, Jack did one of the ballsiest and most disrespectful things I can only remember Vegito ever doing. Grabbed one of the dissipating souls and yanked himself into Demongo's skull t-shirt to enter his Tesseract interior, where he was able to use his magic sword to free all of the warriors trapped inside, thus draining Demongo of all his accumulated power. It was only through this method that Demongo could be defeated, and I doubt any other people on this list would have been able to replicate the same feat, except perhaps maybe the Guardian or Ashi, though Ashi isn't as creative or intelligent as Jack combat-wise. However, because Demongo is implied through visual design to be a direct construct of Aku, being a minion and everything, it is theoretical that only Jack's magic sword was capable of freeing the souls in the first place. The guy is an Aku-like demon after all. But even if this isn't the case, Demongo is still a dangerous enough opponent with his necromancer abilities alone, and he could potentially solo a lot of people on this list and potentially stalemate some of the others higher up. His soul warriors can attack in swarms or work incredibly well in teams, and due to the fundamental nature of Demongo's ability, he is one of the few enemies on this list that really pissed Jack off and made the man work for his victory. Seriously, Jack was fighting with mad fury and grit the entire battle. In that little war of attrition, had he not figured out how to beat Demongo when he did, this demon would have easily killed and absorbed him in a matter of time, which is a terrifying thought. At the halfway point at number 5, we have the robot motorcycle gang. Man, Jack was getting his ass handed to him back to back during the season. I really didn't want to include these guys, but based on what we see of them, these 4 robot nobodies managed to claw their way to this spot somehow. Apparently these 4 dishwashers have names: Holly, Larry, Tony, and Elvin, I believe, and are clearly inspired by your typical Greaser Workshop characters popularized in the 1950s up to the 70s. The design behind these characters is fine, but this group of randos just show up out of nowhere and clean Jack's clock in a matter of seconds. Seriously, the moment they drove into screen, Jack, who was just walking across this innocuous desert after losing another time portal the day before, saw these guys and had this look on his face that said, "What the heck are these guys?" Moments before, they all zeroed in on him and began gatting him while chasing him around on their V8 truck. Seriously, why the f*** are they called the Robot Motorcycle Gang if their main vehicle is a four-wheeler, Wiki? Anyway, despite being a gang of outdated hacks, these 4 are pretty freaking lethal. Though Jack manages to make them crash their car like a bunch of morons, the moment they pick themselves up and surround our hero, they waste no time and start dogpiling him. The babe bot Holly is able to rip her own arm off to make into a clawed melee weapon that extends her reach. Larry is your typical speedy rushdown fighter armed with a tranquilizer rifle. Big fat Tony just wants to take a big old bite out of Jack with his hydraulic jaws and top of body slamming him whenever possible. And Elvin is just your Garn variety jacked up roller who gives Jack a hard shalocking. Despite ditching their massive assault rifles for these simplistic gimmicks, the 4 are able to coordinate themselves incredibly well, first chasing down Jack faster than the Imakandi did, surrounding him and paralyzing his arm, and then proceeding to beat the ever-living shit out of him. And it's not like Jack was able to throw hands with them normally, since they're robots made of metal and armed literally to the teeth. There was no way Jack was going to overpower them with his martial arts. And even if he didn't have his arm taken out, each of these guys is surprisingly tanky. Tony, for example, is such a beefy boy, he was able to shrug off several of Jack's best swings from his sword, and didn't even get phased. Whether or not the others had the exact same durability is unclear, but had it not been for Totoro showing up and going full beast mode, these 4 robots easily would have killed Jack. Whether they were after the bounty on his head is unclear or not, but this gang of upstarts took down Jack way faster and more efficiently than any of the other guys we've seen so far. I put these guys above Demongo because while they wouldn't be able to beat Demongo's numbers, their level of efficiency at laying the smackdown on Jack to the point of knocking him out cold and potentially killing him in seconds tops most of the guys we're going to see on this list today. And what's more, these guys showed up in the episode after the Guardians episode and they beat Jack way faster than he did. Okay, now we're moving into the top tier of this list. At number 4, we have the minions of Set. And I'd just like to say, man, look, it's a shame that the rest of the fan base likes to forget these guys even exist, but holy the moment Jack shows up at the ruins of their temple, these 3 doggos waste no time in folding Jack like a sheet of cardboard. The amount of punishment they deal him in the first 5 seconds of their engagement is so vicious and so over the top, they almost kill him. Let me just run through their history real quick. These 3 dogs were created by Set, one of the most famous and evil gods of chaos from Egyptian mythology, thousands of years before Jack was even born. He then set these guys loose on Egypt to ravage the lands and armies, making the plagues look like a Saturday afternoon at the pub. They caused so much destruction that the priests of the temple called upon Horus's power to seal these guys inside a stone tomb and buried it beneath the structure of the temple, hopefully for the rest of time. Aku, understandably, discovers their burial and, without hesitating, unleashes them and recruits them to destroy Samurai Jack. And I mean destroy. These 3 are so strong and so unbelievably savage that the moment Aku pops the hatch on their coffin, these 3 hounds of hell waste no time in tearing apart an army of desert robots that gave Jack so much trouble in Season 1, and did it so quickly that Aku was like, yo! Not only are they vicious, each of these 3 doggos are incredibly powerful, able to carve through armies and massive stone pillars weighing hundreds of tons with a single swipe. Despite acting like beasts 100% of the time, each of these 3 are able to coordinate themselves effectively in battle, taking turns in attacking Jack and attempting to corral and overwhelm him during each of their encounters. They're also surprisingly perceptive. As soon as they realize Jack was attempting to put the scarab together, they immediately use everything in their power to prevent him from doing so. And that's another thing. You might think that despite their size, strength, savagery, and speed, that Jack would be able to kill them with his sword, but no! Much to our hero's horror, the instant he disarms and cuts one of them in half, the dog instantaneously regenerates, before continuing to attack like nothing even happens. One of the main reasons these 3 made it up so high on the list is that the only way Jack was able to destroy them was by summoning the god Horus himself to come down and banish them to the Shadow Realm. No joke, it took another literal god of Egypt descending from heaven to stop these 3 hellhounds and keep them from killing Jack. Had Jack faced these 3 far away from the temple, or if Aku sabotaged his efforts by stealing the scarab, there is no way he would have won. They would have cut him to bloody shreds, and on top of all of this, it's very possible these 3 weren't facing him at full power, because as soon as Horus shows up, these 3 activated some sort of second phase where they bulked up and began emitting more blue fire. I'd hate to think what they would have done to Jack had they been able to power up beforehand. Now, this is a very contentious placement and could easily swap places with the minions of Set, but at number 3 we have the 8 Ultrabots. Now, even though these guys showed up in the first half of Season 2, these 8 monsters make it up really high in the rankings for several reasons. Being the first children of Aku, these mechanical assassins were created by Dr. Extor as the deadliest war machines ever produced to hunt down and destroy Samurai Jack. Like the daughters of Aku, each of these super robots were armed with a unique tool of destruction to make them incredibly effective in combat. One, an explosive cable launcher, another twin buzzsaws, the third twin claws, another a shuriken thrower, the fifth twin Gatling guns, another twin flamethrowers, one a pair of giant gauntlets that could also turn invisible, which is just mean, and the last a katana. Suffice it to say, they were each capable of fighting at different distances, but are at the most deadly when they were working together and going after a single target. On top of their construction being personally overseen by Aku and the best scientists he could possibly recruit, and their bodies being powered by a portion of the Dark Lord's biomass, each Ultrabot was also programmed with Jack's fighting techniques, meaning they are not only capable of fighting like him with his martial and weapon arts, but are also keenly aware of the methods and strategies he uses in battle. On top of all that, their bodies and arsenal are constructed out of adamantium, the same fictional metal that Wolverine's skeleton is made out of. And yes, I can hear you guys in the comments section. Before any of you say anything, yes, I know it is not or may not be the exact same fictional alloy used in the Marvel comics, but based on how the show portrays these machines in combat, these robots are pretty much indestructible, even if it is not the exact same metal. An argument can be made both ways. They were able to destroy 4 villages one after the other with little to no effort in small groups, and none of the high-tech weaponry used by either the Robot City's armed forces or the desert people were able to harm or slow any of them down. Bullets and lasers don't work on them. In fact, they just bounce uselessly off of them. And the moment Jack faces off against the group on first contact, his immediate instinct is to, oh yeah, I'm just going to cut them to pieces, which is fair. But his enchanted blade didn't even phase them, because each of these badasses were also programmed with this fighting style that were able to surround Jack and beat him in a matter of seconds, even faster than the robot motorcycle game, forcing him to flee. After which, the bots immediately begin tracking Jack down, also revealing that they have a multitude of optical and tracking sensors installed, including Predator heat vision for some reason. The 8 Ultrabots are superior to the Daughters of Aku, not only because their weapon classes are capable of delivering varying levels of landscape-reducing destruction, and Ashi and her sisters are mostly human, but the 8 Ultrabots are also powered by Aku directly, meaning they are his offspring by extension, and their stamina will never run out, and their bodies are, as I said before, indestructible. Jack, like against the minions have said, would never have had a hope of destroying them if it weren't for an outside source assisting him. In this case, it was the Ultrabot's creator, Dr. Extor himself, who gave Jack a power gauntlet specifically designed by him, the creator of the same 8 Ultrabots, to destroy his indestructible creations. Obviously, he didn't install any kill switches or bombs inside of them because Aku was watching him build these things. Whether another scientist could have crafted a similar device to cut through the adamantium is unknown, but based on what we can take away from the lore of the episode, only the creator's invention was capable of doing this, giving Jack the strength and means he needed to finally carve through their adamantium armor. Now, despite this source leveling the playing field for the hero, the battle for Jack was still a really tough one. The Ultrabots gave Jack a pretty decent run around and made him work for his victory, and when it eventually boiled down to a face-off between him and the final katana-wielding boss, his power arm ran out of juice. When fighting the last Ultrabot, Jack could match the katana-wielding one briefly, but as it turns out, that Ultrabot was just humoring him and mocked Jack's skills. When Jack finally gassed out and was about to be finished off by the demon spawn Terminator, it then took our hero praying to his ancestors for a literal miracle, and eventually divine intervention gave the samurai the power he needed to finish off the last bot. Had none of these outside factors been available to Jack at the time he faced these 8 death machines, these Ultrabots would have and did mop the floor with Jack and likely would have killed many of the others lower on this list. Lazarus, the Daughters of Aku, the robot motorcycle gang, none of them would have had a hope of even scratching these guys. Maybe the Guardian might have a chance if he had some sort of secret super gauntlet hidden up his ass somewhere, or the minions of Set might be able to TKO stalemate them, given that both groups are indestructible, but these 8 bots are busted, no question, hence their placement at number 3. At number 2, we have a surprising runner-up in the form of the 3 Siren Sisters, also known as the Sirens. These 3 stage diva waifus, holy shit. Now, the reason why they are in the number 2 spot is due to a number of factors. Not only are they one of the only foes on this list to handily beat Jack in a direct confrontation with no way of countering them, but also disrespect him, rob him of pretty much everything he owned on his person, and have him completely at their mercy. And on top of all of that, they did most of this off-screen. Basically, when Jack heard about people disappearing in the great unknown from this old dockyard kook prior to the Scotsman Saves Jack episode, our hero journeyed out into the uncharted waters of the ocean, where he discovered these 3 waifus seducing and enslaving people, and receiving tribute from all the ships that had the misfortune of sailing within range of their song. How Jack managed to resist their song in the first place, considering the range of their voices extended quite far from their haunted island, I have no idea, but Jack managed to get close enough to the sirens to the point of not only trying to save the people they'd enslaved, but also be a direct nuisance to them. As punishment for his transgressions, the sirens blasted him with a song so sensual and so powerful, they robbed him of his mind and memories, and then sent him out to wander the world as a working-class surfer bro named Brett. It was only thanks to the Scotsman encountering the brainwashed Jack on the boat that the samurai was spared the fate of living out the rest of eternity as Brett, since we know from Season 5's release that Jack will never age. This prospect is quite horrifying, and provided he is never discovered by any bounty hunters traveling on the same boat as him. Now, these 3 gals straight up beat Jack, and there was nothing he could do to stop them. Their main weapon, their voices, can seduce people from many miles away from their island, and they can continue projecting their voices like this non-stop, even while transforming and in the middle of battle, meaning people who get seduced by them are permanently enslaved to them as long as their song remains undisturbed. Apparently, their voices are so powerful they can not only change the arrangement to rob people of their minds and while simultaneously keeping people enslaved, it also works on enslaving robots, hence why they are here. The only one it didn't work on was the Scotsman, simply because he didn't like the music. My boy! But of course, should their voices fail them, like in the case of the Scotsman, the sirens are capable of wall running and jumping around like Spider-Woman, showing off great acrobatics and agility. This allows them to put distance between them and their opponents in order to sick the people they've enslaved onto them. When the Scotsman finally realized their song was causing the hypnotized people to advance on him, the man whipped out his bagpipes and blasted the entire area with his music, breaking the spell on their victims. However, because the sirens don't stop singing, he needed to continue using his bagpipes to keep their spell broken, but this left him vulnerable to their second phase form, which the ghostly sirens combined into a three-headed serpent like Hydra, a form that gives them deadly close-range abilities. It took a combination of the Scotsman playing his bagpipes and keeping their attention on him that allowed a revived Jack to get the final decisive blow on the sirens, ending their curse once and for all. While it is true Jack was able to beat these three in the end, he never would have accomplished this had it not been for his best mate, the Scotsman, being there to help him. Jack was also extremely lucky that not only had the Scotsman rescued him when he did, but that these sirens weren't affiliated to Aku or had any more malicious intentions for him. Instead of keeping him, enslaving him, selling him out, or even eating him in their Hydra form, the sirens thought it would be a lot funnier and more disrespectful to the hero to just steal his shit and let him go, which is exactly what they did. With their song, they could have easily made Jack even more retarded to the point of being brain dead, or they could have had their slaves ragdoll him or kept him in their sex dungeon. They could have done anything to him. For these reasons, these three make it to second place. Before we move on to our number one spot, we have a few honorable mentions. Opponents of Jack who just couldn't make the list. First is the Imakanji. These four hunters, don't know why the episode was labeled 5, were apparently such good hunters that Jack didn't even try to fight them and just ran away from them for most of the episode. I don't know why they were so dangerous, since old Jack had to do was separate them and try finding them a bit harder, maybe use different tactics or try some other shit rather than cornering himself at the top of the tower, but for some reason the show made these spear-chucking, fleshy alien cat people the best hunters in the galaxy for I don't know what reason. Would have been better had it just been one predator-like alien or something. Second, we have the Yeti on the tomb. Thank God Jack had a giant icicle to drop on him, otherwise he would have been stuffed. Third is future Aku. Yes, I know the main antagonist of the show made it to the honorable mentions list, but only because fights between him and Jack are usually split 50-50, where Aku is either dominating over Jack when he doesn't have his sword, or Jack is carving up like a turkey. I don't know why Jack was having so much trouble dealing with him in Season 5, probably because of how shit and rushed the writing was. And finally, we have Critical Drinker's descendant himself, the Scotsman, who managed to TKO stalemate Jack and was just too OP to find a proper place on this list. My boy! And now, finally, at our number one spot, we have the Scotsman's wife. Just kidding. It's Mondobot. I think this one is obvious. There is no other creature or robot on the rest of this list that gave Jack as much trouble to the point of being unbeatable, and for many good reasons. Constructed by the robot residents of the machine city of Andromeda, Mondobot was designed specifically to be the most powerful defense unit ever created, capable of fending off any aggressor. Based on what we saw in his episode in Season 4, this is 100% true. Mondobot is built to an unimaginable, colossal scale, towering over every single skyscraper in Andromeda, with the ability to not only navigate the landscape effortlessly, but stealthily and at high speed. This mountain-sized motherfucker not only managed to somehow sneak up on Samurai Jack twice, but he can also sprint faster than the damn mechs from Evangelion. Aside from its size being a massive hurdle to overcome, the robot also comes with a slew of onboard weaponry, including lasers, projectile cannons of multiple calibers fitted to every inch of its frame, multiple missile and rocket systems that can be fired in multiple configurations, an Iron Giant chest cannon that can nuke an entire area, and a massive extendable broadsword. On top of all of this, the residents thought it was a good idea to program their robot with hand-to-hand combat algorithms for whatever goddamn thing decides to attack it. And should anyone try to infiltrate the robot from below or get on top of it, Mondobot can also deploy an army of spider drones to fend off smaller targets, all of which can shoot lasers. Its onboard weapons are broken enough, and each of its steps can cause miniature earthquakes that could decimate whole areas. Seriously, there was literally nothing that could stop this thing, so when it broke free from its creator's controls and turned on them, it caused the entire population of the city to retreat underground. When Jack first encountered it, he didn't even face its full armor and was nearly killed by its spider drones alone, which caused him to fall from its body, and he only survived when the robots watching his fight with Mondobot rescued him. The only way he was able to beat this thing, just like the other top 4 on this list and Lazarus, was through outside help. The robot residents of the city hiding from Mondobot led Jack to the ruins of an ancient city of giants underground, where Jack was drawn in and given control over a giant samurai statue, which gave him the size he needed to battle the super defense unit. Even though he was able to shrug off its multiple projectile armaments, when Mondobot dragged them into close combat, Jack was pushed quite hard and took a number of painful blows in the statue. Their fight absolutely leveled Andromeda, and it was only thanks to our hero's superior Wing Chun skills he was able to dismantle the robot. But even when all that was left of Mondo was an arm and torso, it wasn't over yet. Not wanting to go down alone, the Titan robot grabbed Jack, tunneled hundreds of massive cables inside of the samurai statue, and attempted to disintegrate him with the last of his energy in one final point-blank chest laser blast. Jack was nearly killed by this, and managed to stop it by shoving his hand in its face and caused it to detonate out the other end, disintegrating the remains of his frame. Had Mondobot been made out of adamantium or had the ability to reconfigure itself, this fight would have been impossible for Jack to overcome, especially considering its size. But thankfully that wasn't the case. Most of the enemies on this list Mondobot can easily beat simply just by stepping on them and nuking them, though the minions of said could just regenerate and the Ultrabots would be hacking away uselessly at its toes. Nevertheless, this titanic foe was definitely Jack's toughest opponent for one reason or another, and secures this spot at the top of the list. Thank you all for watching this video to the end, and hopefully you enjoyed my commentary. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on X and Patreon, and I'll see you guys next time.